Hi, everybody, and welcome to Baroness World Luxury. I've got a very, very, very special guest here today, and I would like to introduce you to Mr. Scott Eddy. Eddy Scott?
Scott Eddy.
Scott Eddy. Actually, it's really funny because I ran not a competition, I ran a kind of survey kind of thing last year. On the platform, and the majority of the people, I mean, it was a close score, but the majority of the people, I think it was 35%, they really wanted to hear the inside story of an influencer who is, I know you don't like the word, but I'm going to use influencer in travel. So here we are in a conversation. Great to have you here.
Nice to be here.
Yeah, so I want to know everything. I want to know everything and everything. Maybe label you as a wolf of Wall Street?
No, not at all.
Tell us a little bit about your early influences, your early background. What made you come to this point?
Well, I'll tell you that it wasn't really supposed to be like this. I was raised as a policeman's son, and my future was supposed to be finish school, join the police academy, become a cop, get married, have the kids, have the white picket fence, retire and die. Like, that was my whole life map. 3 weeks before I graduated high school, my father was killed in the line of duty in a plane crash.
I'm sorry.
And it really turned everything upside down, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And eventually, about 8 months later or 10 months later, my friend who was a stockbroker in New York, he lined up this orientation, and I went in for an interview, and they said, listen, we'll sponsor you to get your test and to become a licensed stockbroker. I didn't really have training to do anything. So I was like, okay. And I was a stockbroker for 10 years. And it was interesting because it really gave me a core skill of sales. And now I can sell anything to anybody. I mean, in finance, when you're on the front line dealing with clients, you really learn the most aggressive type of sales. So they sold the firm after 10 years, and I resigned, and I went to go visit a friend of a friend who was living in Thailand. He was just an expat. And he said, listen, you've never been to Europe. You've never been to Asia. Trust me, it'll change your life. And I hopped on a plane. I went over there for 2 weeks. And after 4 days, I couldn't believe how nice everybody was. And I sent for all my things. I told my mom, I said, I'm never coming back to the U.S. I said, these people are just the most incredible people in the world. Why would I go back to the U.S.? And so when I was living over there, I really was just getting my head around living as an expat and being, in a developing country and all those things. So I didn't really do anything for the first couple of years. And then social media came around. And my friend who was working for an advertising agency, he said, look, you should set up a digital agency. And I said, well, what's that? I don't even know what that is. And he said, it's basically an advertising agency, but you handle all the digital aspects, all the social, all the strategies, all the whatnot. So I was like, that's a thing? And he said, we're investing millions into it. He goes, it's going to be massive. So I was like, all right, whatever. So I took a shot and set it up, and it became the biggest digital agency in Southeast Asia for 5 years. And we built out all the strategies for Mandarin Oriental, for St. Regis, Ritz-Carlton. I mean, everybody that was entering the Southeast Asian market when it was hot. So after 5 years, I really understood that having an audience was the most important part of everybody's strategy. And truth be told, they don't really care where the audience comes from. Now, this is before the word influencer was even a word. I closed up my agency, and I just said, okay, if this is important, I'm just going to build my audience as big as possible, do some consulting on the side so I have some income coming in, and I'll just bounce around the world. So essentially I did 11 years in Bangkok. I did 1 year in Sri Lanka, 1 year in Philippines, 4 years in Spain, 1 year in Portugal, and 1 year in the UK. And I took my first campaign January 2015 as far as influencer stuff. I was doing a lot of consulting, a lot of public speaking and things like that, but nothing really on the front line of this business. But here's the other interesting thing that I don't think anybody can say in my world. I never accepted not even a free glass of wine while I was building up my audience. I paid for everything. And that is something that I think is missing in the luxury world. I think it's very, I don't even know the term, if it's artificial or if it's fabricated or if it's whatever, but if somebody's giving a review of a private jet from Miami to New York, of course it's going to be a good review because you're getting it for free. You don't know the pain of getting a bill and actually having to book it and going through the whole process.
Correct.
You know, I mean, I can't tell you how many times, you know, I hired a private helicopter from Barcelona and went to Ibiza just to go on a wild weekend and book in a villa and this and that, and it's all paid for. Now, I was building up my audience, and my audience grew, and I have a very high-end audience because of that, but I also know what it's like to pay the bill. Yes, I had a shortcut working in the finance world, and I was able to do that, but, you know, it definitely separates me from a lot of the other people in this industry. Also, these people are pure journalists, which I have a lot of respect for because they can just create magic with their pen. And I'm not really a journalist. So, you know, it's good that a lot of people have different skills and areas of expertise in this industry, but it's definitely a weird, crazy, fun industry that changes nightly.
So let's stay just with this influence a bit, because this is really, really, really interesting. When did you actually start to realize that there is something to kind of, you know, having your own brand established, getting the followers, you know, when did you actually start to realize that this is going to be a kind of a trend, and how did you actually see it developing? And as it's currently standing right now, where do you think that this movement that is kind of relatively not that long? I mean, what was it, 2004, 2005?
It's definitely in its infancy stage still to this day. I think the money that's put into influencer marketing will minimally double every year for the next 5 to 10 years. So it's very funny because everybody these days is an Instagrammer or you know, that's their main platform and this and that. I still get 95% of my business because they find me on Twitter. I think that Twitter is a gold mine, and I think that from day one when I joined Twitter, and you know that it's my main platform and it's the one I love the most. It's very funny that from the day I joined, people were telling me that it's going to go out of business and why am I wasting my time on it? And I actually built my whole brand on it. And if you know these other people out there, like Gary Vaynerchuk, he built his whole brand on Twitter. And, you know, it's just very funny that people's mindset are that because it's not the hottest platform, all of a sudden it's going out of business. Or because the stock price gets hit, I'm not investing in the stock. I don't care what the stock price does. I don't care if they have one employee in their office. I don't care if, you know, it doesn't matter. As long as if it's an effective platform for me and what I need it for, and I can connect with people around the world on a daily basis, that's all I need it for. I don't need it for the other things. I just need it to be effective for me. So I actually knew that I was going to be able to sustain some type of business. I wasn't sure what it was before I even jumped on Instagram in a big way. I was getting a lot of consulting deals and a lot of, you know, I build out digital strategies for tourism boards and hotels and people like that, still to this day. And I was getting a lot of that type of business just when I had a big Twitter following, not even before I jumped on. Because if you remember correctly, I'm not an iPhone user, and Instagram wasn't available to non-iPhone users for the first, year or something like that. It was only an iPhone app.
The point is, you always emphasize the importance of networking, the connections, building up. Can you evolve a little bit more around this?
You know, for me, it comes from my father. It comes from, you know, learning to be a police officer since I was little. And if you aren't able to build the right relationships or develop the right connections, you're never going to be able to solve cases. So it quickly becomes all about the relationship that you have with your informants or the people, or when you're interviewing people, and, you know, how quickly can you earn their trust? How quickly can you become their best friends? And then when I joined the finance world, it was the same thing, because you're selling on the phone. How quickly can you earn their trust in order to make them become a client of yours? So for me, I've been developing that skill my whole life, and social is just another arm of that. Social just allows me to do that on a global scale. You know,
been explaining, you leading on to the next question, for example, LinkedIn and things. When you are establishing or start to establish contacts, and people coming back to you that, oh, okay, by the way, what is the importance? Why is an influencer, why could it be really beneficial to my business? What is an influencer that can really add to my product? What it's, you know, it's very much like when, you know, just show me the black and white figures and the papers, and then, you know, the numbers, what have you, and then fine. But when it comes to influencer marketing, especially, I don't know, my experience a little bit about with the high net worth is that it's still not recognized as really as part of the digital stream that's been going on for the past few years. I don't know, what is your experience about this?
That's because companies, if the ROI doesn't come back to them within 24 hours, if a dollar bill or a euro, whatever you're using, doesn't fall on top of your head the next day, they don't believe in it. It's the bottom line.
It's more like in the next hour.
Yeah, I mean, it's so they don't want to try to understand anything that doesn't happen immediately. And it's a shame, because these are the people that are really going to be stuck in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, as social, as digital, as that presence becomes more and more. People, business owners and people that make decisions at brands, they really don't understand how much they're backing themselves into a corner. They're making decisions today that are going to be deadly for their brand recognition in 3 years. Because they're not building up that pipeline. They're not preparing a full-time digital team. They're not, like, don't people understand that our whole life is here? I speak with big brands or the agencies that represent them almost on a daily basis, and it's shocking how much like dinosaurs they still think.
Give us an example without mentioning anything, you know, anything specific. We want to know the gossip, the gossip of the digital world.
Listen, I'll honestly say that, okay, I stay in easily between 2 to 5 hotels every month. I'm not home. I'm home for less than a week a month, guaranteed. I don't even have a home. I stay with my sister in between trips. It's my sister's house. So at these hotels, I inevitably meet the director of PR, the marketing manager, the GM, the hotel owner, whatever, one of those. I would probably venture to guess that 80 to 90% of the properties that I visit, possibly higher, do not have a dedicated full-time social media person. It is just one of the marketing or PR responsibilities, and it's definitely not top 10.
Wow.
I'd venture to guess that's closer to 90% than 80%.
Wow.
2018.
That's a pretty shocking number.
Yeah, and I'll tell you another number. Not another number, but another shocking fact is that they outsource their social media management to a lot of agencies, and sometimes that agency isn't even in the place where the hotel is. And I asked them, well, when was the last time they visited? More than half the time, never. They send them images, they send them information. So they're so disconnected from the brand. Why would I want to talk to a hotel where you outsource like, I'm not even talking to somebody there?
It's an interesting point there. Just give us a little bit, someone who is really thinking about really having or going down more like your route of becoming or trying to become a travel influencer thing. When you are actually staying in a hotel, or what is the actual strategy? What makes it so much deeper? Or but I imagine that you've got a certain kind of content creation strategy or bits and pieces, but what is it that really kind of makes that message really come alive, as opposed to just getting lost in the middle of the media storm of huge pile of information?
Well, I'll tell you, for me, and I'll just use me as an example because I can speak perfectly clear. All my trips, when you see me get on a plane, it's for a specific purpose. I haven't taken an official holiday or vacation in probably 4 years. So they're all paid campaigns or paid speaking appearances or something like that. But I know right away, so they build up either the PR agency that I'm working with or the hotel or the destination or the airline. They build up an itinerary for me and everybody is different. I don't like free time. I don't like, to relax and sit on the beach and read a book and my head will explode. I want to go from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed, and I want as many activities during the day as possible. That way, my social reflects that. So I post more than the average person. I tweet more than the average person. But I've trained my audience to fall in love with that strategy from day one. I used to lose hundreds of followers because they say I tweeted too much. Okay, well, that means it's the same thing in real life. If you meet somebody for the first time and you don't click and you don't become friends, you never talk again, right? It's the same thing.
And I'm just kind of thinking about, because you mentioned there's a lot going on with, as well as you having to physically travel, you are doing everything basically yourself manually on these platforms. Takes a hell of a lot of time.
It takes all my time.
And give us a little bit of advice about the time management. What do you think? What do you think it's really to utilize to the maximum? What advice would you give?
Well, I mean, it's different for everybody because you have to consider what else is going on in your life. Fortunately, these days, I can dedicate all the time that I have not producing content to growing my audience, engaging, looking for new followers, keeping conversations going, developing relationships. I would never have, and again, most people that are watching this are probably not going to agree with me, but I would never dedicate my main platform to a platform that you're fighting the algorithm every day. Instagram is about to become the next Facebook fan page, where unless you boost your post, 2% of your audience is actually going to see it. Why would I want to put my whole life's work building up my personal brand in the hands of whatever mood Mark Zuckerberg wakes up in? Or, like, what are you, crazy? Like, I spent 8 years building up my brand and I'm going to just give it to somebody. So Twitter will never be not my main platform. And also I can grow my Twitter on a daily basis. I can always follow new people. On Instagram, you're limited to that. I spend probably 10 to 15% of every day and when I say every day, I don't mean Monday to Friday. I literally mean every day, researching new people on Twitter and following a few hundred new people every single day. And you and I both know that inherently 30 to 60% of the people will follow back in the next 48 hours. Then you have one job. You have the job to put out good enough content where they stick around. And then if they engage, really like you're fishing, like you're setting the hook, so they stay with you forever. And you don't know what that relationship is going to turn into. Is it going to turn into a friendship or ROI or whatever it is? But none of it can be bad.
Where do you see the future of influencer marketing in the next 5 to 10 years?
No, nobody can answer that question. If anybody can, it's a guess.
I'll give you their phone number if I talk to anyone.
No, it's an absolute guess. You know, who knows where it's going to be in 6 months? One thing I do know is the people with fake whatever will be called out very soon, because technologies are coming up where you're going to be able to tell that kind of stuff very, very quickly. You know, and once that gets weeded out, and once brands start to realize who the good people are and who the bad people are, I think that the market, that the industry is going to fine tune itself, and it's going to change. I don't know how it's going to change. You know, I can say the things that are obvious. Video is going to be more important. Real-time messaging is going to become more important. Going live is going to become more important. Virtual reality, you know, I can tell you the things that are blatantly obvious, but as far as like where it's going to be, it's better that you ask where is it going to be in 5 to 10 months versus 5 to 10 years. I think in 5 to 10 years, do you remember the cartoon, The Jetsons?
Yeah.
So do you remember, I remember when I was little and I was growing up and I was watching that, and you're like, whoa. But if you look at that show now, do you know that more than 50%, if not more, of the things on that show are actually in real life?
It's crazy.
It's shocking.
In fact, more.
Way more.
Absolutely.
Way more. It's just not introduced yet. Like, what is not possible in that, you know, the jetpacks, the flying cars, you know, autonomous driving.
It's all coming.
Like, what's not possible?
Yeah.
You know, maybe a maid or a housekeeper that can actually speak with feelings. But other than that, you know, what isn't possible? So, you know,
let's get away from a little bit from business, more into the personal side. What is it that's really driving you? What is the main kind of fuel inside? You know, not really considering of, you know, outside things, but it's something that is really, really fundamental from value side.
I want to meet as many people as I possibly can in as many countries as I possibly can, as quickly as I can. Truth be told, social media is just a tool for me. I engage just as heavily in real life as I do in digital life. I never go anywhere without 50 business cards in my pocket. I like the power of schmoozing, you know, like just meeting new people, being in the right place at the right time. It's something that my father always taught me, and it's something that I'll keep with me forever. And it's literally the most important thing in my life.
If you can think of, I really would like to ask you to think of something that you feel it's very important, either about your journey, either about business, either about being an influencer, anything. And no one's actually asked you, no one's actually really wanted to explore that avenue with you. What would it be that is really so fundamental to you? And also the answer.
I mean, you know, the most fundamental thing in my life is everything that I learned from my father and the whole tragic thing that happened there. But that has been dissected so much by everybody. Typically, when I give talks, they want to know, you know, that is really what they want to know. And then they want to know So they want to know my background, how I got into it, and the whole thing that happened with my father. And then they want to know, you know, what trends are going on and things like that. I'm pretty much of an open book. You know as well as anybody else that if I'm doing something, I'm posting and or tweeting about it. So my life is pretty public.
Mr. Scott Eddy is coming up on my
let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. And I mean, I've never publicly said it. I think it's obvious, but so I'm very close to my family and I'm very close to my sister, and she's 2.5 years older than me. She's been married for 25 years. They have a 16-year-old daughter. So it's kind of cool being based here in between trips because I basically missed my whole niece's childhood. And, you know, it's cool to like hang out and we go to Disney in between trips and things like that. If I had my choice, I wish that she had the knowledge of me now as far as wanting to visit every country in the world and wanting to visit every culture and wanting to just explore outside of the US. I would literally take her on every trip that I go on. Nothing would make me happier in the world to have her as my permanent plus one.
Oh, that's brilliant.
There's something that I've never said. There you go.
Team, no, that's actually I really like that. You have a kind of, you know, little female kind of, you know, part to
great. It would be so cool and so much fun. Oh my God. Yeah. Because, you know, I'm basically still the mentality of a 16-year-old with that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Scott Eddy. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I wish you a very, very great success and continuous success. I'm sure you will be popping up on my feed like you've been doing for the last few months. Oh, he's there, he's here, he's there. And thank you so much for watching, guys. It has been Baroness World Luxury. Join us for the next time. Bye for now.